I guess I know what video I'm making today. Alright, so by now you guys have watched plenty of hours of videos on how to build the perfect extracurricular list for your college applications. You've probably heard these repeated tips like, oh, make sure to use numbers to quantify your extracurriculars, or use incomplete sentences and semicolons to put more information into your description. Well, in today's video, I'm going to be giving you some novel ideas on how I built my extracurricular list for my college application that got me into 4 Ivy League schools, and I'm also going to give you 3 steps of criteria on how to pick extracurriculars to put on your list. So lock in and take notes. So if there's one thing that you need to take away from this video, it's that every single part of your college application works hand in hand with one another. From your personal essay, to your supplemental essays, to your extracurricular list, to your GPA and SAT, to your AP scores. Every single part of your college application is supposed to come together to make a very convincing and a very passionate narrative. And passion, that's the key word of this video.
Oi, go, oi, more passion, more passion, more passion, more energy, more footwork, more footwork.
So picking the extracurricular activities that you are truly passionate about to put on your list will afford you the opportunity to talk about them in later parts of your application, like your essays and your interview. That's how all these parts of your college application work hand in hand together. So there are 3 main ways to show passion in your extracurricular list. So the 3 main activities that show longevity for me are my family responsibility, music, and being a part of my school's academic competition team. So in fact, my most important activity was my family responsibility for my brother. This was the topic of my personal statement and some of my other supplemental essays, which really gets back to that idea of how these different parts of your application really work hand in hand. The admissions officers, when seeing my extracurricular activity list, were able to now see the activities that I described when I talk about them in my supplemental essays and in my personal statement. As for music, I've been playing the violin for 7 years. I describe my progression in the orchestra. Again, it displays a lot of longevity in music. I again wrote a supplemental essay about this as well. And if I go to HiQ, which is the academic competition team, so I'm a senior member of the HiQ team. I've been there since sophomore year. I've described what I did, creating multi-subject study sets, competed against 21 schools, and made semifinalists 2 years in a row. Very short, very informative description. Again, although this may seem a little bit shorter, you can only be on the HiQ team since, I think when I was around, it was actually since your sophomore year. That's when they started recruiting because of COVID. But all these activities kind of show that longevity, and the experiences that I described, I wrote a supplemental essay for every single one of these activities. So that longevity led to more experiences that I had within those activities, which I could write my supplemental essays about, which attest to my character and my development as a person and as an academic. So longevity is one of the main criteria for picking extracurricular activities to put on your list that you are very passionate about. So my second criteria of evaluation for extracurricular activities that you should put on your list to show passion is the activities that show either a career interest or a community impact. So in my case, I had 4 activities that showcase that. So my first activity was my research that I did. I described this in a previous video, but I did an 8-week research internship where I studied the vagus nerve. This is a very career-orienting activity because I do want to be a doctor and medical researcher. That's what I'm going to be studying, neuroscience at Harvard. So this activity kind of made sense for me. It showed my passion in my chosen field of study, and also the depth of my understanding of the topics of that field of study that allowed me to be accepted to have this internship over the summer. My second most important activity was my Penn Summer Science Initiative, where I did this in the summer after my 10th grade year, I believe. It was a 4-week program at the University of Pennsylvania focusing on material science. This is again more career oriented. I was still kind of picking between whether I wanted to do medicine or something in chemistry, something like that. So again, material science was a very career oriented program, and that kind of makes sense because I had taken AP chemistry in my 10th grade year. So doing a material science program kind of showed that continuity of I want to learn more about the knowledge that I already built up taking AP chemistry in this material science course. So that kind of shows how both parts of my application from my classes that I took and the extracurricular activities kind of go hand in hand and make sense in this regard. My fourth most important activity was being the captain of my Reading Olympics team. This is more of a community impact, being a leader in my community. I was nominated for being the captain for in my senior year. We did end up winning the highest level of awards at the 2024 competition. Obviously, I couldn't put that in my college application, but this kind of does show that leadership capability and that community impact, building this community of readers in my school. My fourth activity in this category of community impact is my volunteer community service, where I'm an event organizer at my local church's program for elderly and disabled members of my community. I have my description right there. I think it's very telling of what my roles and responsibilities in that regard were: setting up weekly events for elderly and disabled church members, learn of trials and lack of advocacy and how they endure from talking with caretakers. That little last part of my description was actually a very good setup for one of my supplemental essays that I wrote about, and I believe a lot of my BSMB applications, of kind of going more into the idea of being a doctor and being a patient advocate, especially for someone like me who's interested in people with mental disabilities. Advocating for patients' rights in that regard is very important. So this kind of just goes to show, hammering down that idea of these different parts of your application go real hand in hand. Like the stuff that I describe in my extracurricular activities, I literally talked about in one of my supplemental essays. And I believe that admissions officers making that connection between these different parts of my application is what really helped my application as a whole stand out, because I believe my admissions officers would be like, oh, I'm reading this essay about like this guy who's talking about patient advocacy, and I realized that like, oh, he learned this from that extracurricular activity that he did volunteering at that program. Oh, I see he was interested in like material science at the time. How does that make sense? Oh, he took AP chemistry and he did good in it in 10th grade or something like that. Like these little connections that you have within your application really make it make more sense and shows that genuineness and character. So my third criteria for evaluation for activities that you should put on your list that show your passion is definitely competition. Competition shows how well and how dedicated you are to your extracurricular activity compared to other people who are also interested in that field. So I have 3 activities that I put on my list that show this level of competition that I had. My first one is something that I talked about before, Haiku. So again, part of Haiku, that academic team, we compete against 21 other schools in our district, and because we made semifinals 2 years in a row, that means everybody on our team, including me, had to understand the categories of information that we were given to memorize. For me, it was chemistry, American history, I believe art history, even political geography of countries, stuff like that. So I had to understand the information on such a level that I could be a benefit to my team so that we could make it to that point in our competition. My second activity for this category of competition is Reading Olympics. I mentioned before that we received the highest level of awards at our local competition. It's blue ribbons because we answered, I believe, over 50 questions correctly across the entire team on all the books that we read. So that again shows that dedication, that work compared to other people who are also competing against the very same thing, kind of hammering down that idea. And then my third activity in this regard is Science Olympiad, actually. So I am a part of my school Science Olympiad team. I work chemistry lab and forensics. So in the description, I talked about the meeting schedule, prepared practice labs and tests with partners, placed 10th in chem lab and 11th in forensics at Penn State Abington Regionals, although those placings don't seem to be as impressive as other people or other people's applications. This is taken into context because our team usually does not perform that well at these competitions, so this is actually a pretty above average performance for our school. And although I couldn't put it on my application this year around, when we went to, I believe, the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, we placed very well in those regionals. Again, this shows that level of competition between people who are also interested and who are also competing in these categories, and we were able to hold our own, being a school that historically is not recognized for that. I believe that added to my application as a whole. So those are my 3 extracurricular activities that add competition to my activities list. So the main takeaways from these 3 ways to show passion in extracurricular activities is that longevity is supposed to give you that like long period of time to show the experiences that you've had that have changed you as a person. Community and career impact is supposed to show your career orientation, what you're interested in studying in college, and also how the extracurricular activities that you've done have impacted not only you, but the people in your community, the people that you live with every day and experience stuff with. And competition is supposed to standardize that as sort of dedication to your extracurricular by comparing you with other people. So yeah, those are the 3 main ways that you can show passion within the activities that you choose to put on your extracurricular list. Also, another point to make, notice how like all of these activities are not so rigidly in these categories. Something like Haiku was in competition, and I was also in longevity, right? So is Reading Olympics. So these aren't like concrete categories to put all of your extracurricular activities in. They can like be very fluid, but again, this is just sort of a guideline for you to show how you can show more passion for what you want and what you love to do in your extracurricular activities list, and also set those extracurricular activities up for you to talk about in both your supplemental essays, maybe your interviews, maybe they make sense given your academic record, right? So again, coming back to this idea of all parts of your application go hand in hand with one another. That's definitely something that's very important, especially in my application, and that's something that I do want to pass on to other people who are applying to colleges in the future. So with that out of the way, that's the end of the video. Alright guys, thank you for watching all the way to the end of the video. I really appreciate the support on the channel that I've seen so far. Officially over 300 subscribers, that is so fun. I want to hit 1K by maybe, I don't know, maybe like August 1st. If we can do that, let's rally up that support. But yeah, no, I'm really thankful for all the support that I've seen so far. It just makes me so happy, and I love all the comments, right? Oh my god, you guys are so nice, you guys are so kind and so smart. I believe in every single one of you. So as for that poll that I sent out yesterday, my entire comment application, I think I'll be making a playlist of it. So I already talked about my personal statement, so if you haven't seen that video, it's gonna be in the card right up here. This will be my second video about my extracurriculars. My third video will be a short one about honors and awards. My fourth video will be another short one about letters of recommendation. And my fifth video is gonna be probably the latest one, because I don't know if you guys, comment down below if you want the interview video to be like, for me to like release it now, or like in December, January, or something like that. I'm pretty sure the obvious answer is now, but like I don't know situationally if you guys are so focused on the application of the essays that the interviews are an afterthought. But just comment down below what you want. Endcards, if you want to watch my college decision reaction video, that's going to be right here. If you want to subscribe, it's going to be right here. If you want to see the stats and extracurriculars that got me into these 4 Ivy League schools, it's going to be right down here. And if you want to know why I chose Harvard, that's going to be right here. And if you want to subscribe, it's going to be right here. Alright, I love you all. Have a great day. Yeah, bye.